Okay, can you see the screen okay? What does it look like to you?
Great.
Okay. And it's not allowing the, there it goes again. It's not allowing the video to play, so here we go. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Foster's. It's really loud again. All right, good morning, everyone. We're having a few sound things, but bear with us. We'll get those worked out. Thank you for joining us at Foster Strategies Group Transforming Automotive series. We are so fortunate to have Eric Brown, someone that you have heard of and trusted from his time at Dataium. And now he's launching his new product, inSearchX, that you're going to be hearing about very soon. But today we're here to talk about something that's real important to our dealers and even our vendors, 5 ways you can overcome margin compression by AI and machine learning. So Eric, good morning. Where are you this morning?
I'm in lovely Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, you're just saying that to make everybody jealous?
I am.
Absolutely. That's great. Eric, it sounds like it's been a busy week for you. You've been traveling a lot.
Yes, I have. I've been to St. Louis and Nashville, and then in a couple of weeks I hit 4 more cities. So it's exciting times for the emergence of our little company here.
Awesome. And I heard that you're going to be speaking at Digital Dealer. I'll be there. I know a lot of our audience will be there as well. What topic are you speaking on there, if we can ask?
So it's very similar. I'm talking about how artificial intelligence is rapidly making the path to purchase obsolete.
Okay, great. Well, listen, Eric, we thank you so much for joining in today. We hear a lot from our dealers talking about margin compression, and there are just a lot of different conversations happening around that. But today we're going to take on from your aspect, that's why we brought you in, how AI is going to improve or reduce the difficulties that margin compression has got. Please translate difficulties as not making as much money as we want. And let's look at ways to like improve those profit channels and get them back to maybe where they were again, maybe even more in some cases, based on what we were talking about earlier. So thanks again for joining us and everyone that's taken the time. We're really glad you're here. Raise your hand if you have any questions along the way. Eric, and we say there are 5 ways to overcome margin compression. Where would we start? What would be like the most important place we would start with that?
Well, so I think, very simply, the margin is derived from the cost of sale and the price at which you can sell your products and services. And so the better you can align your products and services with demand and what people are willing to pay for them, the higher the price. And the more proficient you can be at doing that alignment, if you will, and engaging the consumer and aligning your products or services to that consumer's needs, the lower your cost is going to be. And certainly artificial intelligence and machine learning, that's the heart of what it's about, right? It's about using data. It's about learning from that data to create or to increase the proficiency at which we engage marketplace.
Fantastic. So reducing inventory cost of acquisition.
There's that, yes, absolutely. And the cost of acquiring the customer, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's keep going. So number 1, we're going to talk about, for those of you who are listening, and we'll give you these notes afterwards, let's reduce the cost of actually acquiring the vehicle itself. Now, you were sharing with me earlier, predicting the inventory needs that you and your market are going to have. Tell us more about that.
Well, so I kind of have to sort of back up a little bit on the path to purchase and start about the revolution that's coming in terms of the way we as consumers acquire our products and services, as well as our entertainment content, et cetera. And that is, and we've already started to see this happen, with Alexa and Siri, where our devices are becoming tools of acquisition of information or services or products, rather than merely devices that we use to go find those things. In other words, the device itself is going to do the work for us and literally give us back our screen time. So we're not doing this with our thumbs all day and our heads down in the phone, but the phone's merely, or whatever device is actually doing the search for us. So what does that mean? So what does it mean, for example, if you use our virtual assistants to do your shopping on Amazon, which some of us may have done, and it's a rapidly growing sector. What we're not doing, one, is visiting a website. We're not engaging a salesperson. We're not engaging a lead form. We're not doing a Google search. We're not using a keyword. We're merely using our voice or the intelligence built in our device to gather that content, bring it back to us, and ask us, hey, is this what you need? Is this what you want? So that right there has a pretty dramatic reduction in the cost, because all of those pieces of software, all of that advertising, all of that marketing, all those display ads, all those keyword purchases, all those clicks we buy go away in that environment. And that cost, we go from hundreds of dollars per car in marketing costs to tens of dollars.
So by flipping the model on its head, you're doing so many different things at once.
Correct.
And now let's talk about that, what that's doing. I know that's a step later, but let's talk right here about what that's doing to the customer experience as they're starting to interface very early with the inventory that a dealer may have visible.
Yeah, so, and this has been true for thousands of years. Anytime you reduce friction in a process, you're going to increase demand and the probability of consumers engaging in that process. So I actually want to quote a friend of mine, Tony Rhodes from Gun Automotive. When we were having a very similar conversation a couple months ago, he said something I thought was pretty insightful. He said, one of the things that dealers suffer from is that consumers are not professional car shoppers. And then we sort of walk through what does that mean? So the first example is, let's say a consumer shows up on your Toyota website to search for a Toyota Corolla on Monday. And their search criteria, first off, they're going to your website and they're having to learn how to do the search. They're having to find your website, then they do the search and then they see all the cars come back. So first off, that's a lot of friction. That's an effort. That's a consumer making lots of decisions about engaging your website and being willing to take the time to do the search and review it. Well, interesting enough, so they do that search for the Toyota Corolla for, let's say, under $25,000 in price. 30 cars come back. 15 of those 30 cars are below the scroll. And so what we see in the data is about 60% of consumers will not scroll, okay? So that means 60% of those people who did that inventory search for that Toyota Corolla under $25,000 in price, the perfect car for them, the one they would have filled out a lead form for, the one they may have been compelled to pick up the phone and call your dealership about, was below the scroll. And guess what happened? They didn't see it, right? 60% of them did not do that. By the way, another 17% only do one scroll. So you're up to almost 80% of the consumers. If that car is the last one on the list, they're not seeing it. So that's the first issue. Well, what artificial intelligence does for the consumer is says, skip visiting the website, skip scrolling. I'll look at this inventory every single moment of my life as an artificial intelligence and let you know when the perfect car for you has shown up. Because the other aspect of this is the time element, okay? One of the reasons consumers spend 190 to 108 days shopping for a car and visit 28 websites is they don't have confidence they've found the car, or they've looked at all the cars they should have awareness of. And it takes 108 days not to visit 28 websites. You can visit 28 websites in about 28 minutes if you want to. A machine obviously can do that in milliseconds, but it's because they spent 15 minutes on Monday, 30 minutes on Wednesday. They meant to spend another 30 minutes on Saturday, but the yard needed mowed, so they didn't get to it. So they got back there on Sunday. And next thing you know, 90 days have gone by. And so again, what the AI does, it doesn't know what time is. It can visit all that data, if you will, all that content in milliseconds. And so a classic example, again, going back to that consumer that was looking for the Toyota Corolla, right? They came on Monday, right? On Tuesday, your used car manager says, wow, I got this Toyota Corolla priced at $26,000, above that $25,000 price hold the consumer had on Monday, and says, it's been on lot 120 days. I think I'll drop the price to $24,900. By the way, that car just became the super deal of the day, right? Well, that consumer came on Monday. They didn't scroll. They didn't find anything they liked. That car wasn't in their search results on Monday because you didn't cut that price till Tuesday. That consumer's written you off as a source for their next vehicle because they're not coming back on Tuesday. So you did all this effort, right? You spent all this money to find the right cars. You've got all the software tools. You've got the people employed to price these cars as best you can. And that consumer didn't come back on Tuesday because they priced that car on Tuesday not on Monday. And
And
again,
it's very possible that they told them that they wouldn't take that price, that the customer
yes,
might even offer that price on
yes,
Monday, right? And it's
the
very
AI
possible
doesn't
that
know what time is, right? It sees that price change and notifies the consumer while they're at Starbucks. You know,
absolutely. And imagine how respectful that would feel for the customer to get a one-on-one message saying a car that you were looking at. Boy, you're saying a lot there for us to unpack, but we've got to think about how like the dealership system and the interaction points right now with consumers need to change. We'll do like 17 more webinars around that.
yes.
Okay. But like, let's just think about that right now. It's probably not just that that message is going to go to the consumer, it's also going to alert the whole teams in a different way than ever before on how to interact with them and improve the way that we're reaching out so that we can improve the respect level that we're even receiving as dealership personnel. When we extend the respect out to the customer, give them things that are relevant and timely, and feel like a price benefit to them. But that'll only improve for everyone. Boy, your stats are shocking. And I really like what your friend Tony said, like make it as easy as possible, make it easy for them to transact, but you're also adding in a very thoughtful element for them too. You're saying your time matters, whether you're saying it out loud, hi, your time matters to us. You are telling them that by serving them things. You know, I
Well,
remember a conversation that you and I were having on the floor at Digital Dealer in Orlando when you were talking about these concepts with some other folks. I'll just say they're up the road from you, not too far, in the Florida area. And they were saying, you mean to tell me that I could just, in the very near future, just tell the computer what I want to look for rather than be on this consumer journey. All of these charts that Cox and everybody has created for us, they're impressive and they're interesting. What if I don't want to do that? And what's lost along the way? Like how many opportunities are unrealized because we don't know the messages that they need. So let's go into predicting now. How is this going to help? How is machine learning and AI going to help the dealer actually begin to predict the inventory that they need and help us avoid carrying costs unnecessarily at the dealership?
Yeah, so obviously if you remove the friction from the path of purchase and you collapse what takes 108 days today for a human to do into minutes, hours, or even just a few days, consumers are going to discover your inventory more quickly, and therefore you should increase velocity. At the same time, you're reducing the cost of acquisition of that consumer as well, because now that consumer, basically what's happening is that consumer's device is talking to your database, and you're no longer having to pay for buying the haystack to create awareness. You're not having to buy those audiences. I often think about display advertising in itself and the business model today. With the new technology and the data behind display advertising really doesn't make much sense, because we run ads. And to your point about consumer, looking for convenience. And by the way, if you look at innovation in anything, period, whether it's the phone we're all on today, or even Amazon itself, it's about convenience. It's how, the car itself, the car was more convenient than a horse, right? And so we moved from horses to cars. Humans have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. How do I make my life easier? And that's what AI is about. And that's this scenario. We're making it easier for them to find the right car. And by doing that, we're going to speed up that process. But secondly, we're going to better align our inventory with that as well, because now I have literally a machine that is virtually shopping for a consumer. And so that machine can run a simulation against my inventory, okay? And it can say, if this car was priced, so let's say you have that Toyota Camry priced at $25,000. And it knows, because it's shopping for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people. It knows how many times that Toyota Camry is going to align with its recommendation to consumers who are using that AI. And so it literally can tell you as a dealer, this at 15,000, I'm going to recommend this vehicle 1,000 times, okay? But at 15,500, I'm going to recommend it 900 times. And oh, by the way, my save rate, or take rate, if you will, of those 1,000 recommendations is at 15,000 is 100 people will save this car and say, this is a car I'm interested in. At 15,500, it's only 90. It drops only 5 people. So what you get here is a elasticity in pricing where you're able to say, look, at $500 more, improving my margin by $500, the probability of sale does not decline. Okay? And we
Wait a
can't.
second. Are you telling me, wait. Are you saying for one moment here that there are situations and there are customers where we could actually make more money on the piece of inventory that we thought we had to price at a very low price to be competitive?
Yes, and so today you have to price at the most compelling price, and it's because you're using mass marketing to attract consumers. So you've got this website, you've got or you're on Auto Trader or Cars, wherever it might be, you have a public price. And so you spend all of this money to get consumers to look at your car, okay? And so you've priced it to be as compelling to as many people as possible, the top of the bell curve, okay? Well, the top of a bell curve represents roughly 76% of any cohort, okay? So that means 76% of the people are going to find that price most compelling. But guess what? On the long tails of those bell curves, right? On the left are people who wouldn't pay that price. They would only pay less than that price. Okay? And sometimes they respond as well, and you go, I will never sell that car for that price until 120 days from now. Right? Then there's people on the right side though who are willing to pay more than the top of the bell curve price. Those are, and why are they willing to pay more? Because they have a more critical need. That car better aligns with their needs. Maybe they're closer to you as a dealership, so they're willing to pay for the convenience of service being, around the corner versus across town, right? It's the same reason that people are willing to, buy milk at Walgreens for more money than the cost at Publix or even Walmart, because they don't want to deal with the traffic at Publix or Walmart. So they'll pay a little more at Walgreens. It's the same thing, but the problem we have today is because we're mass advertising, because we're pushing display ads out and asking people to click on them and then come to a BDP or come to an inventory search, when in fact we could actually just show them the car. We have the data to know what car this consumer is most likely to buy. We could just show them the car and ask them, do you like it? If yes, let's engage, right? Instead of go through it. But anyway, the point is there are people on the right side of the bell curve that are willing to pay more for your car. What AI does, it creates a one-to-one environment. So all those promotional rules about how you price your car go away, right? And literally leapfrogs you right into a negotiated state with that consumer at a higher price point.
So let's talk about dealers and legacy understanding that they have of this and how hard it was for them to even approach digital. We saw how long it took, right, Eric? Like, let's be honest here. It took a long time. Now, though, there's so much reliance on products that they've had, and it's just what's familiar around them, even though 10 years ago this wasn't familiar. How do we help them make that leap? Because your stats are compelling, but how do we help them see in real time that that's happening? What are some fingerprints that they'll see from the customers? What are, like, and you and I talk about lead measures. What are some things that they might see along the way to indicate to them, maybe even in their current scenario, what are some things that they could try that may mirror what an AI will bring to them? So let's give them some proof points to look for.
Well, in larger, it's just merely the adoption of artificial intelligence in all the sectors. So, there's a reason why Amazon is making, is investing literally billions of dollars into Alexa and putting it in every home, because they know if they can improve convenience, they can improve the power of their platform. And so they're making literally, voice purchase available. Now, I'm not necessarily saying all AI will be powered through human voice. It can be through, sending a message or a notification to your TV set. A la, you now have the Fire version of Alexa, hooked up to your TV set. And by the way, she's across the room here, so she keeps responding.
So she's going to start, she's going to flip on Netflix or something in a minute.
Turn on the TV very quickly here, yes. But anyway, she just did. Anyway, the point is that if you just look around you, you're seeing AI, inform. And if you think about it, AI in a car, right? So autonomous vehicles are all about artificial intelligence. And we see, why is that going in there? To improve the lives of consumers through safety and convenience and allowing them to do something other than drive the car while they're transporting themselves from point A to point B.
Okay, let's keep moving here because there's so much, and it's very interesting as I'm looking at the 5 things that we're covering. There's a lot of overlap, but I think that's good because they're all supportive of the other messages. Let's talk about the time right now and the cost associated with the dealership who's, in order to combat market margin compression, one of the things to do is reduce your costs against that. So let's talk about the costs and the time involved currently to acquire inventory and customers and how that's going to morph with AI.
Yeah, so a couple of fascinating things. When we go back to that simulation I was talking about, is the AI on the dealer side of things, communicating with the AI on the consumer side of things, can literally run simulations and tell the dealer at what price point do you have the highest probability of sale, and what vehicles are not currently in your inventory. That if you had them, I could have recommended that particular car in your inventory to 1,000 more consumers. I would have created, let's say the save rate on that vehicle at that price point would be 28% of those 1,000 recommendations. 28% of those people would accept that vehicle as part of their consideration. So I could have increased the size of your market of people willing to buy that car by 280 people if you just had it. So you have this sort of real-time alignment that's occurring between what AIs are looking for and what your AI has available for them, and then your AI saying to you, these are the vehicles you need to have, because if you have them over the next 7 days, I can recommend that vehicle 7,000 times and increase your inventory turn dramatically, as well as you can run an AI in the backside and literally say, I need to maintain this margin on my inventory, and then it will optimize the price point on every car against the number of AIs it engages and the price point. So I know it's really
Sounding to
complicated.
me like there are going to be some rather large opportunities for training dealership personnel
Yes.
on not just how these tools work, but on why it's going to be important. Because if I'm a used car manager sitting here right now, or the new car manager sitting here thinking, well, this is my job, I'm the one that's best at guessing, or looking at all of these reports. I think there's a way that it's going to be really helpful, beneficial to the marketplace if we get out there and start talking to them early, like you're doing right now, about how that's going to positively impact their business. And they actually have the point right now. I would talk to all of our GMs and used car managers and new car managers here. It's time for you to be at the tip of the spear of this learning, because you can actually help your entire dealership. And maybe you're relying less on some skills that you had carefully crafted over years, but it's time to develop these new skills and get out ahead of everyone else as this is rapidly changing. Would you agree on that, Eric?
Yeah, so the big switch will be less time on prospecting and more time on engagement, because the AI is doing the work for the consumer. There's no lead form coming in. There's no phone call to the dealership. All that time and energy in your CRM goes away. You're merely getting notifications from artificial intelligence telling you this person's AI has selected your Honda Accord 2015 VIN number da 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 da, and that recommendation by the AI to the consumer has been accepted. Would you like to promote an offer to them? And then that's when your AI kicks in and decides, how do I maintain the margin on my inventory overall? What price point is this consumer most likely to purchase at? The two AIs go to work, and then you have your sales manager, whomever, essentially confirm the transaction. So you go from prospecting to engaging.
Eric, I think we could do a 3-day seminar on this, not a 30 or 40-minute webinar, but for the sake of time right now. And thank you so much again. I promised everyone a revolutionary conversation. And, I'm sitting here like as you talk, jotting even more notes down. So thank you for your generous time in the middle of your busy week. Let's talk about now, you were talking about the bell curve earlier. Let's talk about that. Let's dig in a little bit deeper. You had some good stats for us, but let's talk about this propensity for a marketplace to actually shift to things that cost them a bit more to acquire, but really ramping up the convenience factor for them. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I think there's actually two elements to the pricing equation. One is the convenience. In other words, I'm not having, as a consumer, if I invest 90 days to buy a car, that's an investment of my time and energy. Therefore, I better get a damn good deal at the end of that, right? I'm sure we've all bought things on Amazon and not even checked the price just because, well, it's 2 clicks and I'm done, or 1 click and I'm done. Or I've bought that particular item from them a number of times. And so price sensitivity declines a little bit not a little bit, a lot, when you reduce friction. So that's the first component. The other component is often when we're selling a car, we're adjusting price to compensate for a consumer objection. It's not the right color. It doesn't have leather, or it has the synthetic leather, not the real leather. There's 1,000 things, right, that we adjust price for. And so, again, artificial intelligence has been empowered by the consumer to find the perfect car for them, knows what those components are, and literally can send that signal to the dealer and say, one, you don't have this car, so I can't engage you on behalf of this consumer. But if you had this car, I would. So they can do that. The other thing is that signal can go up the path, if you will, and to the manufacturer and say, hey, today paint 3 more black ones instead of blue ones, and with this vehicle we'll get 1,000 more consumers to save it to their consideration set. In other words, your overall consideration of what's coming off the assembly line will go up by 10 basis points if you paint these black today instead of blue. Well, if I give the consumer the black one instead of the blue one, what happens to their willingness in terms of the price point they're willing to pay for that car? Right? So first off, I got to that car faster and I got to the right car. So, we've all experienced this in everything we've ever bought or everything we've ever sold. The better the value of your product, the form, function, and features of that product align with what I want as a consumer, the more I'm willing to pay for it. I will admit I pay more for where I live because there's an ocean across the street, and I value that ocean really, really highly, right? And so I'm willing to pay a little bit more.
Instead of sharing us a picture of that this morning, you're showing us your whiteboards.
I
really
wasn't
don't think that's fair for our audience.
there, but I thought that might be a little cruel. So
yeah, that would be cruel.
yeah.
All right. So price sensitivity, some of it's in our mind. And
Yes.
some of the value, we diminish the value by trying to force people into products they're not ready for, where they tell us with their very activities online that they are willing to pay more for exactly what they want, how they want it.
And then going back to that pricing scenario, I'm more willing to pay for a Honda. My kids have bought Hondas forever. They love them. They've always had a great experience with them. They're less price sensitive to buying a Honda than maybe a Hyundai, because they don't have any experience with that vehicle. And so, but that Honda dealer is having to price all those Hondas at the top of the bell curve in terms of price, the most compelling price to the most people, which is probably a price lower than my kids would be willing to pay, just because they have had such a great experience with that vehicle. So the dealer never actually gets to take advantage of that loyalty factor to the degree they can through artificial intelligence.
And so for our audience, Eric called this earlier one-to-one marketing rather than marketing to the masses with your lowest possible price, because you felt like you had to, because you were reliant on traditional mass media.
You're trying to get a phone call, and right. that barrier is lower or higher for different people depending upon what they want and what their experience with that vehicle has been before, or with your dealership.
Yeah, one size, one price does not fit all. Eric, we're going to move to our final piece, which we've already started to walk into. Let's talk about consumer engagement. Let's talk about what customers really want now and how AI is going to help you interact and intersect with these people on their shopping journey.
Yeah, so the other thing is, because what's happening in an AI environment is you're creating a tether between you and the consumer in your inventory. So you're getting real-time signals from that consumer in terms of their probability of buying a vehicle from you. And so the consumer experience then goes to from a I'm here, I'm gone, I'm here, I'm gone, I'm here, I'm gone. I was here on Tuesday, I was gone on Friday, I never came back to your website, to always on. And so that always on environment allows the consumer, one, to always have the latest information about your inventory, going back to that they're not a professional car shopper scenario we talked about. But also at the same time, it gives you the signals to respond to as their needs change. I mean, my old company, Dataium, it was very rare actually to see a consumer's number 2 and number 3 lead submissions match their first. We'd often see people shopping for luxury vehicles, maybe shopping for that Land Rover, and then suddenly they're over, shopping for a Tahoe. And it's because their expectations and not being a professional car shopper, their expectations weren't aligned with the reality of what the Land Rover may cost them, and they would evolve over time. So again, by having that always on, you as a dealer can evolve your offering to that consumer as well, and the conversation, so that the consumer then is always having a much more aligned and compelling conversation with you.
Okay, Eric, there's a lot that we've covered here today. As we think about our dealers, there's a lot of education that they need, and I like the way that you've thoughtfully prepared your message so that they can start to see real scenarios and how that's going to impact them. Margin compression is a real thing,
Yes.
but we drove ourselves here through some of the very things that you're talking about by relying on traditional mass media channels, by relying on the lowest price to drive it, and by relying on traditional acquisition and models for both acquisition of inventory and customers and carry through on that. It's cost us a lot of money to do things the way we were. I see some incredible breakthroughs in how we can reduce costs, reduce time, improve a customer journey, and make the dealership existence better and more targeted for the very people there.
Well, ultimately, what we're hoping is it's not a customer journey; it's a customer moment.
Oh, I like that. I saw you flicker just a minute ago when I said that, a customer moment, and they declare a moment in time, and then now everything goes to work for them.
Right. And then so they got two moments. One when they tell the machine to go to work, or maybe even the machine, because it's also connected to the data in the car, knows it's time to start shopping, and actually literally brings that forward to you as a consumer and says, hey, I think we're going to have some issues with this vehicle over the next 60 days. Would you like me to source repairing it, or responding to that, right? Preemptive service, or finding a next car for you, right? Or both.
Yep.
And then it goes to work, pulls that information in, and as you accept or decline the information that comes forward, it learns further, and then it then engages a dealer on your behalf when it believes it's found the right vehicle for you.
That's terrific, Eric. Thank you for all of your revolutionary insight, as always. Never disappointing. Always a treasure chest to unpack here. I've taken a lot of notes. We're getting asked by the audience if we would repeat this. Is that possible in the next week or two? There are people, they want to make sure that there are others on board. We will be.
I'm about to go on a marathon 4 weeks in a row on the road, but maybe we can find a spot somewhere in one of those cities where we could do it. Maybe we do it live from the dealer while I'm there.
Yep, we'll do that. Absolutely. We'll be there. And Eric, we'll be speaking on Wednesday at Digital Dealer on, is that the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Anyway, we'll all be out in Las Vegas in the boiling hot summer, filled with grasshoppers right now, they're telling me, in Las Vegas.
I did that yesterday myself. Yes, yeah.
So I'm not sure what the appropriate attire is to go into a grasshopper apocalypse, but I'm going anyway. Foster Strategies Group is.
Watch out for those chocolate-covered grasshopper hors d'oeuvres. They're going to be really popular. Yes.
We're not going to do that. Foster Growth Strategies is committed to bringing you education and the best people from the industry that we can possibly serve up to you, to give you thoughtful, helpful, real-time examples of what you can do to get ahead and win in retail. So thank you for joining 5 Ways to Reduce Margin Compression and Overcome Those Challenges by AI. Eric Brown, our guest today from inSearchX. We can't wait to hear more about your new product, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Eric, any closing thoughts?
It's time to go to the beach.
It's time to go to the beach.
I did work for me today. Yes.
Well, now that all of our dealerships are making more money, they'll have more time and ability to go to the beach. Maybe that'll be our closeout. Okay, everybody, let's go to the beach. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again for joining Foster Growth Strategies with Transforming Automotive.
Bye-bye.
And close.
It's just me.
Yep, and we're closing out.